All right. Well, thank you for everybody for tuning in and staying with us. Right now, we have a great interview that's coming up with my friend Kimberly Butler Fitzgerald. She is the owner and stylist at Ladies and Gents Professional Hair Services here in the Kyle area. She's in Hayes County, and she has been giving me my signature red hair color for a number of years. She's the lady that I owe to all the compliments that I get when I go out in public and people see
Oh,
red hair color. Yes, yes.
that's sweet.
So people say, "Oh, do you do your hair color yourself?" And I say, "Oh, no, no, absolutely not. That's not something you play around with at home by yourself, and you can't get these kinds of results at home." So thank you, Kim. Thank you for
Thank
being
you for
here with
having
us.
me. Thank you for
Yes.
having me. I am very honored to be on here tonight and today, or I'm not sure. I know we're Zoom recording, so I am honored. I am honored, and I jumped to. This is a great topic y'all are doing, and I'm looking forward to it. Being a
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've been wanting to get you involved with this since we started doing this last year. Because every time
Yeah.
I go to the shop, I always get an education and I always learn something either about hair or I learn about the industry or both. And
Right.
you are just
Right.
a wealth
Right.
of information. So I brought you in to be a part of this conversation because I just wanted to ask you a few things. And the first thing that I wanted to ask you was for you to just tell us a little bit about the variety of styles that you do for your Black clientele.
Okay. Um, First and foremost, my clientele is majority professional women. I have even some professional African American men, and I have a variety. But what I see most in the salon with my African American clientele is a lot of press and curl, a lot of protective styles, anywhere from two strand twists, box braids, crochets, silk wraps. But a lot of things are going in other forms and other directions here lately. I'm seeing relaxers come back a little bit with the cut and style,
Mm,
but it's balancing out, because I think it's just the age group and then the different time we're in. So, yeah, I'm seeing a variety of all.
okay,
A
all
lot
right.
of
So,
boldness.
okay, so you said something that I don't know if everybody understands. So, understanding that our audience is going to be multicultural, and even some of this language is new to even people within our own community, the Black community. Like you said, protective styles, and then you gave me a list. But what does that mean? Why the phrase protective style?
Because we in the African American culture here lately have been coming back to our natural roots,
Okay.
okay, and our
Mm-hmm.
natural textures. So sometimes we're wanting to take the stress off of our own hair, and
Mm-hmm.
we begin to put protective styles in there for growth, because if if you don't know African American hair, it grows better sometimes when it is protected in protective style, so you don't put more heat and more damage into it. So that's why we call it a protective style, so it can
Mm-hmm.
take care of the hair. Yes, you still maintain it while it's under this protective hair, because you have a lot of oils, you have a lot of steaming you can do, you have different things you can do to use to protect the style.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just protecting their roots and taking less stress off of it. And just because we say it's not that you cover it up with a hair weave, it's not that you cover it up with braid. Sometimes you may want to do just a particular two strand twist on your hair. That's considered a protective style where you don't have to do too much to it. And some
Okay.
people leave it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense because I've done that before with my hair as well. Just give it a rest and give it a break.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Mm-hmm.
that makes a lot of sense. So you kind of answered this question, but I'm going to ask it in a little bit more detail. So, what are the more popular styles that you do or that people request, and has that changed over time?
Wow, good question. Good question. I definitely have seen a change after being in this industry for over 30 years. When I first started in this industry, it was more of the finger wave. It was
Oh, I remember
really
those. I remember those. Yes, ma'am.
yeah. So it was a lot of finger waving, cold waving, perms. So it was a lot of that. And bringing us up to date where we are now, we have almost went back, way back, because I do get a lot of press and curl. I do get what they call a silk wrap, which is another form of pressing the hair and then wrapping it. And we have started to play with a lot of color, a lot of highlights, because it's less damaging on our hair when you're natural than you are with a relaxer.
Okay.
So I would say press and curl, braids, of course. We're dealing with a lot of hair braiding. So that is one of the most popular that I see on the regular.
Okay.
And all different types of braiding, from crochet to the list goes on and on. And it's not just us, it's a beautiful braiding speaks culture. Okay. Power. And we go through a lot now. When you're talking natural hair, you're talking about being happy from the hair that grows from your scalp. So, it becomes strong, it becomes powerful, it becomes ethnic. It's me, and I'm not going to change me. So that's where we are today within this type of generation. Unlike the generation where we came up, it was, oh, my hair has to be this way, it has to be that way, because you were getting into corporate America. So most of the generation today is, you got to take me how I am because I love me. So so that's how it has changed over the years. And we just walk with a bolder hairstyle by staying more natural with the afro. Some just like it trimmed, wash, trimmed, and go. And they're doing their thing. Yeah. Okay. A little bit of everything.
Okay, cool. All right, so because you do a variety of styles, we know that this topic about celebrating our heritage tends to be a conversation that gravitates more towards natural hair. But with the natural hair movement and more women opting to wear their hair natural, do you see relaxers and straight styles, weaves, etc., as an indicator of identity or self-love issues? Because now that people are saying, hey, take me as I am, there's a dichotomy now between the natural hair movement and people who still wear straight styles, that if you wear your hair straight, then somehow it's a self-love issue. Do you see that in your clients? Or do you see that as a hairstylist, as a hair professional? What do you think?
I must honestly say, when I saw that question, I thought to myself, wow. I must honestly say that I do not believe it's an identity crisis. I think women today are more stronger of who they are. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that it becomes an issue more so with my job than it does with my identity of who I am.
Oh,
wow. You know what I'm saying? Because some of us can be okay with, I'm going to rock my fro to work. But for some, it's like, oh my God, your hair. I'm sure you get that all the time. Your curls are so cute,
Let me stop making faces. I'm on camera.
Right. So it depends on how you can handle that. And then you find a lot of women who, I'm going to put a wig on today because I want to be different. you know, sometimes it just comes a matter of we have so many choices.
Yes.
Our hair can go all over the place. And I think women are more experiencing what I can do to the hair I love than I don't like my hair.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I like that. I think it's about personal choice and versatility, because I don't think people really understand just how versatile black hair is, and not just versatile in terms of what you can do to it and how you style it, but that black hair comes in a range of textures, length,
Wow. Yes.
densities, colors. I mean, it is versatile. There is no one black hair. It's versatile in what we can do
Right.
with it and how it grows out of our heads. But I will ask you this, because you were alluding to this just a little while ago. But do women, or the women that are coming to you, your clientele, especially your professional clients, are they wearing their hair straight by choice?
In some cases, I would say no,
Hmm.
because some of them have been told we need to do something with the hair. And back in 2018, I was reading an article that was put out by the Harvard Business, where it talked about 3 Black CEOs are in the Fortune 500 companies, but none of them are women, right?
Hmm.
There again, this is not even just about women, it's about the men too.
Right.
And it's the dreadlocks, it's the 2-strand twist some of our African American men wear. Um, and our young adults see it as popularity because of the videos and the football players and everything that is put on the internet, you know.
Yeah.
So where you're not seeing the Fortune 500 CEOs in
Right.
that, okay?
Okay.
Now, would it be that they look like this with the locks and this and that, then it's okay. But we as a parent have to tell our kids to love themselves the way they are. And we have to remember when we're in the workplace as well, carry yourself accordingly, you know, and your hair shouldn't even make the difference. But I was reading in this article where it says that you can always pull it back and still be professional. And women have a tendency not to have those type of jobs if their hair is like that. I find that a lot of women work in media, marketing, advertisement, but one young lady was saying, you know, my job is trendy, so I don't have to worry about it. And I was like, wow, okay,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I
that's
do see where some women are like, no, I can't. I would love to go natural. I just can't because of the job I have. I mean, I have to have my hair straight every day. Where I say of an instance where a young lady said, my boss just looks at me crazy, or she said 3 things to me already today about my hair. You
wow.
know, not that it's pretty, but you know, oh, your hair is different. You know, never a compliment, but when she wears it straight,
Mm,
I love your hair like that.
I see. Okay.
So, you know,
Yeah.
and then after a while, when your boss continues to do that to you, you know. So I do hear women say that sometimes, or I had to come back and change something because, you know, my job just kind of mentioned something to me about it. I have heard that. So these are
Yeah.
women that, and you like, what? Are you serious? They had an issue with your 2-strand braids, or yeah,
Yeah.
well, they just feel it's not, they don't want people to feel a certain way. So I think we need to be careful when we are talking to people on your job about your hair and let them know why. You don't have to, but you may ask the question, well, why is your hair this way?
Mm,
You know, just reverse the question and
right.
be comfortable with who you are, whether it's straight or girl, you still the same person. So how is my hair affecting you?
Uh, that that is the work, and that is the hope that women are able to stand their ground and, demonstrate agency in how they wear their hair. But what I'm hearing is that the reality is that women are making these changes because they're fearful that they might not be able to keep their job if they stand
Exactly.
their ground. So that's why we're having these kinds of discussions in this public forum, because there's so much more that we could say that we're not saying.
Right.
um,
True, true,
but
true.
for the public forum, these are conversations that we want to bring to the forefront to let people know that, if you're not an African American male or female, man or woman, have you ever been discussed, or for public policy about your hair, or in school, or on your job, isn't an issue? Well, that is the lived experiences of African Americans, of Black people in the United States, that on the job and in schools and in other public arenas, you could be approached about your hair and given an option or an ultimatum about how you should wear your hair, that choice is not given to you. So
True.
we're
I
hoping that
agree.
yeah,
Agree.
so we're hoping that this conversation will foster that kind of thought in people who have the power on their jobs to hire and to fire and to retain and to do reviews, that, these kinds of conversations shouldn't be coming up about something as personal as something that's on your body. Um, you know,
That is
so
definitely true.
yeah. So one last question, one last thing. So what message would you like to share as a Black woman and as a hair professional about the beauty of Black hair to your clients and to mothers of Black children? What would you say?
First, I would tell them, well, the mothers of the children, I would definitely let them know to always remind your children that they are loved, with and to always love who they are and how they were wonderfully made,
Hmm.
and not to hate what they have,
Hmm.
because what you have is just as special as the next person,
Right.
whether it's hair or whatever. But, love the skin you're in and love your hair. There are going to be so many things that you can do to your hair. So definitely let your children know and teach them how to take care of those
Hmm.
hair problems that they have. And even if you're not, and I'm going to say this, even if you're not financially equipped to go to a hair salon or anywhere like that, you would be surprised what your local hairdresser may do if you call and say, hey, I just need
Hmm.
a little bit of help with
Right.
my child's hair, and giving them the experience of, I can't sing, because I have had parents say, I just want my daughter to love her hair. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? So it all starts at home. Now, as far as my clients and giving them advice, you know, talking to women, you want to say, okay, put it in the budget. Put it in the
Mm-hmm.
budget. You work every
Okay.
day.
Hmm.
You come once a month to a salon. It's okay. Sometimes we're killing our own self industry by skipping to in home hairdressers
Hmm.
and things like that. So I would definitely tell them, um, if you're going to be professional in a professional way and go see your professional stylist so you can
Hmm.
get the proper care and learn what to do, and at least have the proper products so you can take care of your tresses and make sure they look good.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that in itself, and there again, if you're one of those people who, I just can't afford it, call. You'd be surprised what you get with a phone call.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just think sometimes we stay with, I'm just going to pull it back in a ponytail. I can't do anything else to it. And really, I mean, we still have a phone and we still can call. So,
Right.
I think that's a good thing. I just think that people need to get more educated about their hair textures, what type of hair do I really have? You
Right.
know, I do want to be natural. Find you a natural stylist that can talk you through all of this and make sure you understand what it's going to take for you to go natural. You don't have to always go to a relaxer. So get educated on your hair and not educated from the TV or from the YouTube. Go talk to a professional stylist and really try to get what you need for your hair. Because when you do that, then your children will follow.
Absolutely. I love that. And I will say this, because you talk about the fact that it's like, as a woman, or even as a man, it's like, put it in the budget. It's part of your self-care and your self-love and your self-maintenance. That you can't trim your ends like a professional stylist can get in your hair and see your ends being trimmed. You can't color your hair like a professional stylist, and just do the things that a professional will be able to do. But I will say that part of the African tradition is that someone who does your hair has a honored place in the village, in the community. We love our hairstylists because you guys work miracles and do things that nobody else can do. And that when, people would go and get braids or hairstyles in Africa, in their different tribes and their villages, and sometimes it would take days or weeks for those styles to be performed, either by someone who in the village was, that was their specialty, or by a family member or a relative. But it's part of our culture that we go and we take that time out for ourselves with our hair. So you have a very honored place in our community. And so the fact that you would end with the fact that it's like, look, if you don't come see me, then go see another professional.
That
is probably one of the best pieces of advice that you can give someone about their hair, and not go down the YouTube rabbit hole and take advice from everybody on YouTube, because God knows there's a YouTube rabbit hole for that.
That is so true, because your face is the first thing people see, and then it's your hair. So this needs to be maintained by somebody professional, from your teeth, your face, and your hair. This is your first thing they don't see. So, you don't want it jacked up.
Right. How about that? No, you don't want to do that. All right. So thank you so much, Kim. Kim is also going to be a part of our discussion panel as well, but we wanted to take the time out to have a personal and up-close interview with you as someone who works in the profession, about the things that you've seen. And I hope this information has been invaluable and enlightening. We're here to educate, we're here to liberate, and we're here to celebrate.
All right.
All the things about Black hair.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you. And that's it for now. We'll see you in the Shop Talk discussion.
All right.
What does our world tell us about hair? From fairy tales to advertisements, movies, and music videos, our icons are typically lusciously locked. Long, flowing hair has been a powerful marker of being a woman. But that's not how Afro-textured hair grows. Our hair generally grows upward and is tightly coiled, like this and like this. So what does our world tell us about Afro hair?
Black students at the prestigious Pretoria High School for Girls protested a clause that banned wide cornrows, braids, and dreadlocks.
There's an online petition demanding that Beyonce and Jay-Z do something about their daughter Blue Ivy's hair. One commentator said, quote, "No child whose mom spends thousands on her hair monthly should live life looking like a sheep."
Right now, school administrators say the girl's hair is a problem and it needs to be straightened or she'll get kicked out. But her mom doesn't understand how her hair looking like this is wrong.
Mystic Valley Regional Charter School says the two sophomore students' hair extensions violates its dress code. So they're being disciplined with detention and are prohibited from taking part in extracurricular activities.
Mainstream beauty doesn't have Black women in mind. Instead, Black women with Afro hair are expected to conform to an aesthetic that values straight hair. That desire for straight hair is a construct that started during colonization. Let me explain. From my earliest memories, my hair was presented as a problem that needed to be managed. The concept of leaving my hair the way it grew from my head was crazy to me. From weaves to extensions, jerry curls, curly perms, straight perms, and straighteners, my hair was hidden. It was misunderstood, it was damaged, it was broken, and it was completely unloved. That's not surprising. I never saw anybody with hair like mine. Afro-textured hair was, and in many places is, stigmatized to the point of taboo. But it wasn't always this way. In the mid-1400s, Alvise Cadamosto made 2 trips to Africa. In his journal, he wrote this about the people in West Africa. Both sexes go barefooted and have no coverings to their heads, and weave and tie their hair, though short, into neat tresses. Neat tresses. Cadamosto's accounts were positive, partially because transatlantic enslavement didn't exist yet. There was no imperative to dehumanize Africans. To European observers, there is no sense of African hair being ugly or inferior. We see a similar sentiment in Yoruba proverbs. And the Mende described beautiful hair with the word potongo, which means it is much, abundant, plentiful. In reference to hair, the root word poto means long and thick. What contributed to the major shift in black hair? Slavery. During slavery, the hair of black people was compared to animals. It was claimed that the tightly coiled African hair was similar to the wool of an animal. That was a way to justify the inhumane exploitation of people. During slavery, a hierarchy emerged where there was a status attached to having more European features. Those with these features, including looser textured hair, while still denied access to basic human rights, sometimes had more opportunity. This is a pattern that was apparent from the context of slavery through emancipation and even up until the present day. Slavery was abolished in 1865, but the stigma around black hair was not. After slavery, chemical hair straightening products for black people gained popularity. It was seen as one of the few avenues that could provide financial empowerment to black women at a time when those opportunities were practically non-existent. It was seen as a way to elevate their status, so they were marketed with an emphasis on beauty, personal success, and the uplift of the entire race. It led people to believe that their black hair wasn't beautiful the way it was. But a century after the abolition of slavery, black hair and the afro reigned supreme again. The civil rights movement and the Black Power movement became a motivating force that disrupted European beauty standards. Some black American men and women began to move away from the relaxers and embrace the natural coils and curls that grew from their heads.
Don't be ashamed of your heritage. Don't be ashamed of your color. Don't be ashamed of your hair. I am black and beautiful and not ashamed to say it.
This era of empowerment was glorified everywhere, from local streets to TV shows such as The Jeffersons and on iconic figures such as Michael Jackson. Fast forward to today, and while black hair is still not widely accepted, it is being celebrated at events like Curlfest, in TV commercials, and it's even emerging on red carpets and runways. And then, in 2018, Black Panther was released. The release of the movie was monumental for many reasons. It was the first time a Hollywood production created an on-screen world populated almost entirely by women with type 4 hair. I embraced my natural hair as well. When I was pregnant with my first baby, I decided to shave my hair and go natural. I knew that if I had a daughter, it was crucial she did not grow up with the same warped concept of beauty that I did. So I'll leave with this. We need to reimagine the way we think about progress, about modernity, about success, about development, and about civilization. We need to think about the way we frame demands for inclusion and representation, and seriously rethink the way we attribute, or more often do not attribute, value to Indigenous knowledge systems. And yes, we need to reject many of the beauty standards we subscribe to, those that privilege lighter skin, thinner noses, or good hair. One of the easiest ways to demonstrate our nascent freedom? Wear our natural hair.
So California is officially the first state to ban racial discrimination based on natural hairstyle.
California became the first state to pass the Crown Act in 2019, aiming to ban race-based hair discrimination, and 6 other states followed suit.
The natural hair movement is more than hair. It is a lifestyle. It is learning to be comfortable in the skin that you're in.
All right, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I see some of you have decided to attend the pre-show. Welcome to the Dunbar Heritage Association's Black History Month event 2021 entitled Celebrating Our Heritage. So if you've been with us before, you've already seen a wonderful interview by stylist and shop owner Kimberly Butler Fitzgerald of Ladies and Gents Hair Salon and Professional Services. You saw an informative video about the history of Black hair discrimination and where the history of this comes from and why things are the way they are concerning Black hair. And this evening, we are going to have a discussion about the beauty and the complexities of Black hair, but we're also going to celebrate diversity and diversity in Black hair. We have a number of interesting videos for you. We have a panel that we will call The Shop, and we will engage in shop talk. And if you're not familiar in the African American community, when we go to the beauty shop and the barber shop, the conversation is always riveting. The experience is always engaging. So we expect our panelists to be nothing less than riveting and engaging as the shop weighs in on their experiences and some of the videos and things that we're going to discuss this evening. We have a great discussion that is lined up for you. I would say that for those of you who are part of our family that's not part of the Black community, we welcome you. We encourage you and applaud you for being here to be a part of this discussion, because these types of discussions help to move the needle in terms of us being able to coexist with one another, to understand one another. And so some of the things that we share and we discuss this evening may be challenging. It may be challenging for you, even if you are part of the Black community, because of past experiences. So we want to challenge you, and that's the reason why we're having this discussion online. But not only do we want to challenge you, but we want to educate, we want to liberate, and we want to celebrate the beauty and the diversity of Black hair. So without further ado, we're going to go right into our next video. It is a video that was actually aired originally on KView with Ashley Godot. She's a news anchor on KView, and she discusses a movement to ban the discrimination Black men and women face because of their natural hair.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, last week we introduced you to our Rooted series. We're confronting the discrimination so many Black women and men face simply because of their natural hair. All across the country, a movement to ban this type of discrimination is growing, including right here in the Lone Star State. Ashley Godot explains.
Let's talk about hair. You've seen it worn down, half up, half down, in a ponytail or bun, and chances are you don't think anything of it. But for so many of your friends, neighbors, and coworkers, wearing their hair in the exact same styles, down, half up, half down, in a ponytail or bun, is met with a dose of discrimination, all because the texture is different. Hair discrimination was put on full display in 2018. A referee told a high school wrestler in New Jersey he had to cut off his locks before a match or forfeit. Lawmakers across the country spoke out, and in 2019, California became the first state to pass the Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, or Crown Act. To put it plainly, the law states a person can't be denied employment and educational opportunities because of the texture of their hair or for wearing it in protective styles, including braids, locks, and twists. As one state was passing policies to protect Black hair, Texas was getting national attention for penalizing it.
I was called down to the office every day. It's a crazy feeling because it's like, what is going on? Why are they doing this to me? Like, it's confusing, it's depressing, and it's stressful.
Last year, DeAndre Arnold was suspended from Barbers Hill High School outside of Houston and banned from walking the stage at his high school graduation because he wouldn't cut the locks he had been growing since he was 12 years old.
You would think it's just hair, but no, it's not like that. It's actually a part of who I am. Growing up around my dad's side of the family, they're from Trinidad and Tobago. This is something you see all the time. You see dreadlocks, and it's like, me seeing that as a kid, it's like, I really want to be a part of this. I want to emulate this and express this culture. I like this.
1 year later, the district's policy requiring the length of a male student's hair to be above the collar hasn't changed.
It really is a shame that in 2020, that was last year, or 2021, we still are dealing with this.
State Representative Ron Reynolds met with DeAndre.
And I applauded him for taking a stand, for being willing to stand on principle, and he wasn't willing to conform to what the school deemed acceptable in terms of hair.
In February 2020, Reynolds and the members of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus vowed to fight hair discrimination the next time the legislature met. That time is now. Representatives Reynolds, Retta Bowers, and Sean Theory all filed versions of the Crown Act, a show of solidarity to show how important this legislation is.
To impose a European standard of hairstyle on people of African descent is not equity. And so it's time that in the state of Texas that we get on board and we make a statement that we believe in African Americans' right to just be and wear their God-given natural hair texture.
Representative Reynolds and Senator Boris Miles filed a bill in both chambers to ban discrimination against people who wear their hair in braids, locks, or twists in Texas schools and businesses.
You should be judged on your merits and not how you wear your hair.
Bauer's version of the bill goes one step further, ensuring people with natural hairstyles can't be discriminated against in housing.
In our style, and whether that's hair or wardrobe, that is an expression of yourself. And you should feel in school, in the workplace, and in where you live, you should feel comfortable to be yourself.
Theory's version bans discrimination in businesses and schools and requires cultural awareness training for teachers.
Without cultural competency, they really don't have an appreciation or awareness for what our hair means to us as African Americans.
3 bills, 1 goal.
Our goal is united, to make sure that in Texas that we ban discrimination based upon hair.
And this legislation is personal. Bauer's nephew wanted to wear his hair in twists. Reynolds' daughter was told not to wear braids at an internship. And Theory's daughter came home from elementary school crying after hearing a teacher berate a black classmate with a racist comment about her hair.
There are a lot more stories than we've ever really heard of. I think it was something that was swept under the rug, kind of at everyone's kitchen table, those conversations. But this is legislation that is necessary.
Lawmakers in 7 states have passed the Crown Act. Now, Texas lawmakers have 3 months to get a bill on Governor Greg Abbott's desk.
Welcome back.
All right, so at this time, we are going to bring on our panel, or as we like to call it, the shop, to see if they have some comments to weigh in about the video that we just saw. All right, so welcome to our shop, and we're going to do a little shop talk. So I'm going to introduce you guys a little bit later during the group discussion, but for right now, I just want to get some brief comments and thoughts about on the video that we just saw, or even the interview that we had with Kimberly, or the Good Morning America video. So weigh in, tell me what you guys think.
Hi, I'll go first. My name is Rhonda Nixon. Hi, everyone. Kimberly, let me start off by telling you that interview was great. I really enjoyed it. You shared some imperative information when you were just trying to explain to us as African-American women to learn to embrace our hair. And the part that I really liked was where you mentioned to remind us as mothers to encourage our daughters to love their hair and to not feel like they have to conform to a certain type of identity because that's what society is wanting them to do, but to teach them to, at an early age, to teach them to love and embrace and be willing and wanting to wear their own hair. So thank you for that. Your interview with Pastor Jay was great. Are you Pastor Jay today, or are you Jonathan? What am I to call you?
I'm like, well, girl, I'm all of that all the time, but you call me what you feel like calling me today.
I know you as all of that. But along too with the video, there wasn't much said, Jonathan, or you guys that I was surprised to see. It's disappointing to see, but it wasn't much, that surprised me, particularly with the young man who went through so much in his high school when he was strictly just wanting to wear his own hair. And, because of the society that we live in and because of the types of oppression that we as African-American people already deal with, having to dealing with just wanting to wear his own hair, that's just another sign, of the way, society has, oppressed us as a community.
Very good points. Point taken. So does anybody else want to weigh in or have any comments at this time?
I do. I think we've come a long way, and we still have a long way to go. But and particularly, I remember working for a big 6 consulting firm and wanting to get braids, but knowing it wasn't acceptable. And this was like 15 years ago. That's why I say we've come a long way. And one of my friends got an assignment in Australia, and she came back with locks, and my eyes just bugged out because I was like, how are you going to go to see, not like 20 years ago, sorry. How are you going to go see your clients? Like, are you ready for this? And now I just laugh at the thought that I had those thoughts back 20 years ago, that wow, she's being very brave to wear her hair like that. And now I feel like we've come a long way, but based on that video, we've still got a long way to go.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment because, it speaks to the fact that your reaction came from this idea or this reality, this lived experience, that we have to be hypersensitive and hyper aware of our appearance, so that says a lot that you experienced that. And seeing someone else, it's like, how are you going to see your clients? That is loaded. We don't have time to unpack that, but in the conversations to come, hopefully we will unpack that. But I mean, I want people to hear that and sit with that for just a minute. She came back with locks, and you were like, girl, what are you doing? So like I said, we'll just sit that right there for now. Does anybody else have a comment?
Yes, I'll I have a couple of comments. So certainly can relate to the young man in the video and the experiences. Certainly happy that we're having this discussion. I work in a couple of areas that are deemed to be extremely professional. I wear suits a lot of times in both professions that I have. And, I'm a millennial, and I was raised by my grandparents. And it was very interesting growing up because being told the first time I grew out my hair was from my 10th sophomore year of high school to my sophomore year of college. And getting into the work environment, it was, certain jobs that maybe you knew that you could get into and certain jobs you didn't. And this is even more recent time. And then also, what was very interesting too is, even within our own culture and in our own family, my grandmother, and she's probably watching, and we've had this discussion before, so I'm all right with saying it. She told me, it's going to be tough for you to get a job growing out your hair like that and doing all those different things. People aren't going to respect you and stuff like that. And it made an impact on me. It was very tough. And I think that's why now I grow it out, because I am professional. I'm respected in my community, and I want to show young boys and girls, minorities, that you can wear your hair in a natural way and still be respected and achieve great things and do for your community and be respected in that same way.
I love that. That is such a very true statement. And it's so funny because it's almost a double-edged sword, because when, Angela Davis and the late 1960s and the Black Power movement, came about, wearing your hair natural was a form of activism, and you were seen as aggressive, and so on and so forth. But still 20, 30, 40 years later, wearing our hair natural really becomes a form of activism, because we are resisting, stereotypes and European forms of beauty, European standards of beauty. And it's a way of showing agency. So I love the fact that you've made that choice. I, for one, think your hair is cool. I'm like, my councilman, he's got the curly fro and he's extremely professional. So I really appreciate, the representation that I see in my city council when I see you there and I see you coming, as yourself. So I appreciate that. Any other comments?
I think one comment that I was going to make is two things that kind of stand out to me. Society giving us a warped concept of beauty and what that means. And then the importance of cultural competency. So when we think of, this is a great platform to kind of show that, I think from my career, my standpoint, I'm in the classroom on the college campus, and being able to show cultural competencies, the ability to really understand and communicate effectively how we interact across cultures is so important. And I think that's going to be the bridge that we have to cross to really make a difference and an impact in what we're trying to do with our next generation, really breaking those barriers down, but sharing with others what we expect and not just conforming to society like we've always had to do. But now we get to share our narrative and share what we want our next generation to see and the importance there. But I thought that was very key in really understanding the importance of cultural competencies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, does anyone have any comments about the Crown Act? Because I've heard about the Crown Act, and I know that New York and California were the first two states to pass the Crown Act, but now the Texas Black Caucus is actually they said that they've already presented legislation to pass the Crown Act in the state of Texas. And I, for one, was one of the people that signed up, and I signed the petition. And we're going to provide the link throughout this discussion for people to go on and sign the Crown Act. So, talk about cultural competency, talk about inclusion, diversity, anti-racism. These are things that we can do as a community. And, even if you're not part of the Black community, you can be an ally by going on and signing the Crown Act. But what do you guys think about the fact that we even need that kind of legislation in 2021?
Yeah. It's because, so many people have conformed to what they want us to be. And we're not really expressing who we are in a whole, and not really kind of like bowing down and not really stepping up for what we truly need to step up for. And we're not teaching our children to do the same thing, because I'm hearing it in the salon, I'm seeing it, and I'm also seeing it in the school. I understand the young man. I understand what he was going through. Unfortunately, it's come to that because you want to look a certain way. They want they want their school to look a certain way. They want some of their sports teams to look a certain way, you know. And unfortunately, me having teenagers and seeing it every day, perfect example, yesterday I was at a dance competition and I noticed the girls, our girls have to conform to another world because they can't be who they are. And why is that? And in some cases, ourselves do a double standard, because even in some of our world where we're trying to have, let's say, Black ballet girls, they all have to perform their hair to a certain look.
Yeah.
Different, but true.
Yeah.
So it's really why we need it, because we need to be able to be comfortable and be who we are and have that support to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
And also, you were asking if we need or what do we think about it having to be something like, what's it called? The Good Crown Act? That's what it's called?
The Crown Act.
The Crown. That was actually the first time I had heard of that when I saw it right now when I saw it on the video. So I actually thought that was interesting. But yes, I'm not surprised that we do have to have something like that, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take for something to have to be as drastic as them creating an act for the people at the table to listen and hear what the citizens are wanting. So I know it was passed in California, and you said also in New York.
Yes.
It's great that you have it here where it's available for and promoting for people to sign it, because with us living in a state like Texas, a red state like Texas, it is definitely going to take something that drastic to where the people who are at the table is being put right in their face that there needs to be a change. So I definitely see, I'm not surprised again to see it have to come to this, but I definitely am. It's something that I'm in support of and think that it's needed. And I hope that other states follow suit and they do it as well. because it's going to take the majority, for it to even be heard. And then we're still going to be dealing with the fact of people actually accepting it and approving it, once it's coming to fruition. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's necessary. Not surprising.
absolutely. Yolanda, were you about to say something?
Yes, there are times I'm saddened that we have to have an act to make this okay. But I also realize that there are times that living in Austin and the groups that I'm in, it's like a bubble. So I wouldn't even think twice any longer about walking anywhere with my hair locked. I'm like, this is me. I just I wouldn't have thought that you might close the door on me because of my hair, but it happens. I hear about it and I realize it's happening. And in addition, like my daughter dances for a wonderful ballet studio where she expects those girls to wear their hair natural. And that's one of the reasons we picked it.
Right.
But that's not the reality for a lot of people. And so I'm thrilled that you showed that piece and that it's happening. But I think sometimes when we're in a bubble of our own little communities where everybody, so we're preaching to the choir sometimes, that it's good to put that out there for other people to realize that the necessity of the Crown Act.
Absolutely. Okay, so for right now, we are going to go to another video. It is called The Impact of Racism on Mental Health. It was originally aired on Spectrum News with Spectrum News Austin with Dr. Nicole Cross, who is a news anchor. So we're going to go to that video and then we're going to come back and we're going to have more discussion and we're going to introduce our panelists. So stay tuned for that.
Biologically, we truly are just one race, sharing 99.9% of our genes, no matter what the color of our skin or what part of the world we come from. But historically, some people have found ways to not just identify differences, but to oppress others because of them. Here are just a few examples. In Alabama, this woman lost her job because she wouldn't cut her dreadlocks. And in New York City, these sisters were banned from participating in a play over their braids. And who could forget this moment when a New Jersey wrestler was forced to cut his locks before a match? Incidences like these can have detrimental psychological effects, causing people to feel devalued, dehumanized, and disrespected, all of which could lead to frustration, anxiety, and depression. Rather than expecting people to conform to a grooming standard that mandates we suppress our cultural roots and identity, researchers say demonstrating an appreciation for and value of differences can foster inclusion, acceptance, and cohesion. Addressing racism and discrimination is obviously not easy and cannot be quick, but there are things we can do immediately. One, be introspective. We can take a hard look at ourselves, take stock of our beliefs and our biases, and work to change them. Two, improve communication. We can also think about and change how we talk about each other as individuals and as a society. Three, foster education. There are benefits to talking to our children about racism and teaching them healthy ways to think about themselves and others. Four, increase advocacy. Consider speaking up when we hear or see racism or discrimination in any form. In doing so, we can benefit from focusing on what unites us rather than what divides us. In the studio, I'm Dr. Nicole Cross, Spectrum News.
All right, so we are back and we're going to have some shop talk. But before we do, I'm going to introduce our panelists and I'm going to bring your names up one by one. So as I call your name out, just give a wave so that everyone can know who you are, even though the names are down there at the bottom. But I'm going to introduce Minister Rhonda Nixon. She is the founder of Single Moms Searching for Peace. She does some great inspirational videos and talks on her Facebook page. So Rhonda, give everybody a wave. Dex Ellison, Council Member, District 1 at Large, City of Kyle. Kimberly Butler Fitzgerald, owner and stylist at Ladies and Gents Professional Hair Services. Yolanda King, author of Curly Locks and the Three Pink Pandas, Curly Locks and the Big Bad Hairbrush, Curly Locks and the Sleepy Giant, and the Storybird Dance series. And she has her Amazon profile on Amazon that you can buy her books, and we'll post the link for that because we're going to hear a story from her a little bit later and an awesome interview. And finally, we have Dr. Danette Myers, clinical assistant professor at Texas State University. I am Jennifer Banbury of Dunbar Heritage Association, your host and moderator for this afternoon. And if you haven't already, share this video, share this discussion, and invite other people to participate in this Black History Month celebration. Today is the last day of Black History Month, and we are going out with a bang and discussing something that is very important. So I posed a few questions for our panelists, for our shop. So we're just going to jump right into it. So I want to ask the question to anyone, and whoever wants to jump in first and do so. So what does beautiful hair look like? And I know I might be begging the question, but it's just a conversation starter.
So I had to be cliche, but it's in the eye of the beholder a lot of times. And I think that we've as society has grown, and with social media and a lot of voices and opinions being talked about, people are sharing what they feel in various different things. But I do feel that there has been an uprising of more acceptance and inclusion of various people and what they look like. And so for me, I'd say that anyone that is paying attention to their hair, managing it as best as they can, because we're all unique. We all have various different roots and styles and curls, even in the Black community, but all the various communities. So certainly beauty is in the eye of those that are beholding it, but I think all of them are beautiful. And it's really interesting because just like we all have various different voices, we all have various different styles, skill sets, and different things like that. They can all be appreciated for their unique look.
I like that answer. It's in the eye of the beholder. So what else do you guys think? So what does beautiful hair look like to y'all?
He pretty much summed it up. It is, and it's the person and how they carry themselves, basically. Being a hairdresser, you have to always know that your client love themselves first, because, and I always have to tell them, the hairstyle doesn't complete you. It will help to modify what's already there. So sometimes it's got to be the individual. It's not. It has to be within them. So I must agree with Dex on that.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that as well. Anyone else before I move on to the next question? Okay. All right. So who defines then? So if the beautiful hair is in the eye of the beholder, then who defines beautiful hair? I got a comment from Mitty Miller saying kinky and curly is beautiful. So, but then who gets to define that? Because that's a great answer. I love it. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder in terms of what beautiful hair looks like. But as we have seen, and as we have already heard, that the politicization of Black hair determines what beautiful hair is and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So who gets to define beautiful hair?
Who you're asking who gets to define beautiful hair?
Yeah, who defines that? Who determines that?
I think from my experience as a child and even what I still see today, beautiful hair has been defined by the people in power, because we are influenced by commercials that we see. We're influenced by personal experiences that we have. We're influenced by the experiences that we see other people have. We are influenced by I'll say social media now, but that's just been here, in the last 20 years. But I would think that all of us on the call, we have been influenced since we were younger, before social media was even a thing. And I know for me, I was even taught in school that my hair wasn't the right kind of hair to be. The right kind of hair to be was the hair of someone that had light skin with blue eyes and blonde hair. That was the right hair to have. So I think that in the past, who got to determine if about hair? It was the people in power, the people who had control of the TV, what was being shown on TV, the people who had control of what we were learning in school, people who had the control of who got to say what was pretty hair and what was not pretty hair. And I think that now that we've come into the age of social media, and we're seeing this huge change in how African American women and men are starting to wear their hair. I think we're getting some power back because we, as a whole culture, is retaking back that wearing our natural hair is a beautiful thing. But for years, it's been the people of power who have the influence to determine what was your question? What was beautiful hair? So.
Right. Right.
I can totally agree. I really agree with that answer and that response. We think about when you say who defines hair, I would say society. You say people in power. What do we influence more by? You say social media, those kind of things. When we think of hair as being a symbol of beauty for long periods of over a long decade of times, society has told us that long hair, straight hair was beautiful. So now that's kind of what we kind of expected. Thankfully, that concept of beauty is changing. So now the hair itself, we know, or we're learning that the hair itself doesn't define beauty and who we are and, what's attractive and, those kind of things. I think we're turning that curve to really see what beauty really is and what beautiful hair really means. And so I think while we're moving and changing, you think about those maybe examples of a person with medical or hereditary type conditions that have to really unlearn their hair, which is not everything, but really to embrace maybe their baldness. So we have to learn how to unlearn what society has told us so many years. And I think, again, that was a great answer. And we're just really in that, the season and that era of a paradigm shift and really changing how we're changing that narrative is the bottom line. And that's where we're going. So when we say people, positions of power, society, the things that we're influenced by the most. So I think we as a culture, we're changing that and we're defining it the way that it should be defined as in our culture. So very good. So Rhonda.
Yolanda, did you have a thought? Because I see the pensive look. You are deep, like you're way down the hair tunnel.
Well, so I'm thinking because I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I'm thinking about the power. But sometimes that power structure is your peer group, especially with children.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking through what we passed. My daughter's always had her hair natural. And I think if I told her to put a relaxer in it, she would like think that I wasn't her mom anymore. But her peer group also, she goes to predominantly white school, but when she's around her dance friends and her older friends, they all have natural hair, and that is it. Some days they have it braided, some days they have it froed out, puffs, twists, all of that. And I think the acceptance and the embrace, the way they embrace each other when they see each other and they're complimenting each other, that peer group sometimes is a stronger voice than parents, and that power is strong. So we can get it down to our kids, which I think we've been doing. It'll make a huge difference.
Yeah.
On who defines beautiful hair.
Taking that power back.
Right.
Yeah. Dex, you look like you're in mid-thought.
Absolutely. And I appreciate Sister Londa going that way, because that's exactly what I was thinking. You know, you played the piece before the 5 o'clock hour from the Good Morning America. And Sister Emma talking about how she would press her hair and straighten her hair and all that. And it wasn't until she had a daughter that she changed. You know, she did the big chop, essentially, what we know of, and started embracing her natural curl and hair, so that her daughter would then grow up with a different perception of what it meant to what beauty is, and that would be natural. And so I think that's something that we're all learning. So just as much as we are, and I didn't comment about the Crown Act earlier, but it is difficult that we have to have a mandate, a law, that to change that behavior. Sometimes that has happened, though, in the course of our history, in order to gravitate larger change. But truly, it really comes down to the heart and the mind of the individuals and people treating each other better. But I want to dig a little bit deeper in the point that Sister Yolanda talked about, and you know, it's starting within our own culture and with us. Now, I'm a mixed race individual. My father is Puerto Rican, and my mother is Black, and she has very curly hair, and that's where I get a lot of it from. But my hair still had a slightly different texture, and I remember growing up, it was very difficult sometimes fitting in with different kids, relating with different kids. And I would get one of two ends of the spectrum. Either people would say, but you have good hair. So it's almost kind of like a dismissive way that, oh, you don't have to deal with the struggles of us, or you have good hair. Or even they're just truly trying to be complimentary and say, you have good hair. Well, that always puzzled me growing up, because I said, you have good hair too. Everybody has good hair. Everybody has their own individual, you know, roots and locks that is good to them. It doesn't make it that I have, you know, a slightly straighter texture to mine that makes it quote unquote good. We have to also change that mindset within our own brothers and sisters as well about that, because it can all, and I see Sister Kimberly, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna quiet down after this, but I wanted to kind of talk about that as well, because just as we are trying to be more inclusive and provide a more professional, that all looks and styles can be professional, we also have to look inside our own culture and what we're saying amongst each other, and really accept ourselves too.
Woo, boy,
That's
this
awesome.
is getting
This
is getting deep. So just to recap, so what I'm hearing everyone say in the terms of who gets to define, or who has defined what beautiful hair is, to sum it up, the socializing agents. In sociology, we call the socializing agents family, education, the military, the media, and those types of things. Those are the socializing agents, or who define. So the media has largely defined what beautiful hair looks like. And it has been because of the dominant group has had the ability to define and put images that are Eurocentric in nature. So they have historically defined what beautiful hair is, and it has affected us in terms of policy, in terms of, you know, our ability to be able to express ourselves in so many other different ways. It can even affect your income, your ability to hold and keep a job. But also peers, your peer is a socializing agent. So, you know, when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, mom and dad's word is law. You ask them everything, and whatever mom and dad says, oh my gosh, I have just been opened up to the universe. But then when they go to school, they'll be like, well, my friend said that his brother said, and you're like, wait a minute. You realize that you're starting to lose control over being able to teach your children what you want them to learn. So your peers. So, and then Dex hit on something very important, and that is internalized racism. That because the dominant group, and because Eurocentric standards of beauty have been largely responsible for projecting images and telling us what is beautiful and what is not. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember if that video with Sister Emma talked about it, but in my presentation last year, we talked about the fact that when Africans were brought over as enslaved persons through human trafficking and the transatlantic, voyage, that there was all kinds of horrible atrocities that happened. and it was rape and other acts of violence that created mixed race children. And so then those two groups were pit against each other, and those who had features that were more like the slave masters were told that they were more beautiful. So within our own culture, there grew this competition and this internalized racism that whatever was more Eurocentric, more European, was more beautiful. And so you got to the heart of something that we don't talk a lot about, which is this issue of good hair. And I know Chris Rock did a whole documentary about it, but it goes so much even deeper than the documentary, because this idea of good hair, I want to unpack something. And I know we're going a little bit off script, but I like the organic conversation that we're having. And one of the things that I've been trying to do, like Dex has been saying, and Yolanda has been saying, and Danette, everybody on the panelists, everybody in the shop, is why do we say stuff like, "Ooh, girl, your hair is nappy. Ooh, girl, we got to get down in the jungle. We got to get this straightened. And we got to, ooh, girl," why do we say stuff like that?
So can I say something? So that is a clear example of colorism that goes on. You know, the term colorism that goes on within our culture. And so my experience was similar to Dex's experience. People are always telling me, especially my peers, but it was a negative thing for me because I always dealt with being, other girls around me trying to say things that would make me feel bad because the texture of my hair was different from what might have been the next girls next to me, or the ladies that I was around or whatnot. So I experienced colorism, but I experienced it in a negative way because I was similar to Dex. One, I was too young to even know what was considered good hair or bad hair when I first started experiencing this, because I was young. I remember I was in elementary school starting to go through that with girls who had a different texture of hair, or what it appeared, because you could put water on my hair and then my hair looked a little different compared to what the other girl's hair was. So colorism is something that goes in a negative way to both sides. Like Pastor Jay or Jonathan was saying, you got considered in a certain status back in slavery if you had more of this European look. So that would be a swap for me, whereas I didn't have certain friends. Certain girls would make me feel bad because my hair was different, or it appeared to be a different texture than what most of the young little girls' hair was in school. But growing up as an adult, it got worse. You would think that growing up, being mature, just having a different type of mindset, that it would have changed. And no, I've actually talked to Jonathan about this. She and I have had conversations about, even, to this day, I still experience women treating me a certain way. I can be walking in a clothing store, and me and my daughter will just walk in the store, and we'll walk in and I'll see who I'd be looking at thinking her hair was beautiful. And she turns around and looks at me, and she'll go straight to my hair, and this frown will come across her face. And then I will see her literally like trying to look to see if my hair is actually my hair. And so I used to, there was a time where I would feel the need to have to do something, to try to make her realize, that it was my hair. But I'm 52 grown years old now. So I no longer feel like that's something, that I have to explain. I'm like, girl, you worried about this hair. I'm not worried about this hair. But it took years, of me having to just come to a place to where I was like, Rhonda, this is a whole cultural thing. This is nothing, for you to be taking on personally, or something that you're doing wrong, because this is something that goes much deeper. This is just another thing that, like Pastor Jay said, that we as a culture have been set up to be against each other. The color of the type of hair and the color of skin, that's just another way that they manage, to cause division between our culture and our community.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask the last question. Oh, Dex, Don't wanna pass you up. We're
No, go
doing
ahead.
good on
Go
time.
ahead with your question. I think Sister Kimberly was itching to get in as well, but we can open at the last
No,
question.
no, no, no.
If you-
I mean,
Okay.
y'all have really covered. For me, I just believe that, man, you're hitting it so on it. This is so good. I am totally like just sitting here. You don't know how much this is needed, just so people can hear what, and we ourselves, as like she said, colorism. It's, man, it is so needed. It goes even into our HBCUs today. Can I
Yep.
just share this real quick, Jennifer, before we go?
Yes,
Okay.
please
Today, my
do.
daughter had her first meeting for dance, and it was a dance team for a Black university. I'm not gonna call it, but anyway, they told it was a young lady on the call, and as we know, a lot of the girls wear the weave back and forth, and the young girl said, "Well, I got dreadlocks." It got silent, complete silence. And the director said, "Well, we never had to deal with that before. So now it's a change." So what happens? Does that stop her from getting on the team? So a young lady spoke up and said, "We got plenty of wigs. But why is it she has to change her look?" Now we're talking about an HBCU. Why is it she has to change her look to be a part?
At
And
an
this is us.
HBCU?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about right there.
Oh, I mean, this is a
And
that.
and wigs, wait a minute, let me tell you this. Wigs is part of the costume. So you have to purchase them because you gotta look a certain way.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. Everybody's like, what? Yeah, I mean that there's so much more we could say about that. That's a whole nother conversation for another time, that we could have on another platform. And Mitty Miller said, "Not surprised mindset."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean,
Not surprised.
but here's the thing, that these are things that we carry with us because many of these young ladies come from a diverse school, or a school where Black people are not in the majority. And so they come from these other dance teams that have these beauty standards imposed upon them. And then you take this same practice into your higher education experience, and the standards, they carry those standards with them. And it's just really interesting that that's still happening. But like Rhonda said, we're talking about colorism, we're talking about internalized racism. And oh God, okay. Last
I know,
question.
this much.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Last question. So we've kind of hit on this, but I want to put a cap on it. So then who do you think, this is a perfect segue, who do you think bears the burden of changing negative perceptions of Black hair?
Our hairstylist. A
Okay,
lot of our
that's a good one.
hairstylists.
So
As far as hair goes, hairstylists are these unmentioned ministers, and they have a ministry. Hairstylists actually have a ministry because, like you said, Kimberly, the things that you experience, you almost have to talk and persuade and convince and change, some of these people that come and sit in your chairs to make them know that to wear their God-given hair, to know that it's okay to do that and to be proud because it's all a part of who you are. So, hairstylists and barbers, y'all have a ministry, that some might not even look at it like that. But if you seriously think about it, that's what it really is. Because, people sit in y'all's chairs and they share their whole lives. People will sit down and they'll just start talking, and they'll just share so much of their personal information. I've been in a hair shop, and I've listened to women, some of the things that they sit and they share, and I'm like, do they even know anybody in here, that they're sharing all this personal information with? So I agree that hairstylists, have a big brunt of the responsibility, but also we as a community have probably the biggest responsibility, because it goes back to what we were just talking about, this colorism and this type of prejudice and this type of discrimination that we have created. Well, we didn't create it, what was pressed upon us in our own society, because it goes all the way back to slavery as well, just like Pastor Jay said. We have been so brainwashed, that, to compete against each other. We were brainwashed to think that, if one of us are doing well, that we have to be scared for others around us to do well, because we think that that might take away from whatever we're supposed to have. So I think it is our responsibility first. And that's kind of what's happening. If you see how we were talking about us taking control and taking back the beauty of our own hair, how we're seeing this big movement now. You're seeing more where the workplaces are somewhat starting, to accept, African American women and their hairstyles. And that's because now, there's a little team behind us that no one wants to go against, the grain right now, or they don't want to be the bad person right now. So, but with us, starting to do this more as a culture, it's starting to get the attention of those outside of our culture. So I would say that we have a big responsibility to start changing the narrative about the impression of our hair.
Yes, I agree. Dex?
Yes, I 100% agree with that. I'm going to give two different answers to this. So in part of my preparation for this panel, I told y'all last Wednesday that we talk about this a lot in my family. I have a lot of women in my family. I'm typically the very quiet one, believe it or not, in my family, and I do a lot of listening. And so I reached out to three of my female family members to talk about these questions. And so one of them is a Gen Zer, my cousin Barbie, shout out to her. She had a very different approach to this question than I did, because I felt when I read it, we need allies, just like during the civil rights movement. We need allies of different races in order to help the movement as well. The same thing with Black History Month. That's what we're doing this event for. Of course, we had a Dialogue for Peace and Progress panel here in the city of Collin. We were talking about, is Black history still needed? Is it still relevant? And because it hasn't even met the objective that Dr. Carter Woodson wanted, and that he also wanted it to go away, but once it was ingrained into the full education system, that Black History Month wasn't just needed to be educated one time a year, it was in the curriculum and in the textbooks all throughout it. So we need to continue to do this within ourselves, but we need allies in the community, and all the parts of the community to learn and accept and embrace us as well. Jalen Rose, he's a commentator for sports. He said something along the lines of, I wish people love Black people as much as they love Black culture. Because people are embracing Black culture. They do a lot of different things. And I'm not going to get into all those, the appropriation and different stuff like that. But communities love what we bring forward. But you've also got to embrace the people that are bringing that. So that was one thought to that question. Second one was Sister Rhonda brought up an interesting point that made me think about an experience that I had. So growing up, when I was an adolescent child, I was raised with my youngest sister, Bridget. And there was a time where she went to an after-school program, and she would come back crying days where she would want us to cut her hair, my grandmother to cut her hair. And my sister Bridget is half Black and half white. She had always had long, flowing, straighter hair, but wavy. And me and my grandmother back then, and for all these years, assumed that it was other, children trying to get her to conform to putting extensions in her hair and all these different things. And I always felt bad for my sister, and I always wanted to protect her. And I thought that was difficult for her to go through until yesterday. I sat down and talked to her about that experience for the first time since we were children. And now we're both adults. And she shared with me her perspective of that same story that we never got back then. And she was telling me that it was due to, she had a friend, and she knew the friend's name right immediately once I brought up the story. And she told me about how it was actually that friend that was being picked on because her hair wasn't that long, and, and all these different things. And other Black girls were giving her a hard time about it. And Bridget said she was actually a popular one. And so other kids looked up to her. So she said something along, she was being an overly protective friend, and that she was willing to cut her hair and do something just to help another one of her sisters fit in. And I was just blown away because I hadn't known that that was the perspective of her all these years until I'm an adult male and we're both adults having that conversation. And it just warmed my heart, one, of the care of my younger sister for that. But that just goes back again to that internal, that colorism and that shaming, and even that happens within ourselves, that we need to work on and display that everybody's hair can be unique and beautiful in their own way.
Wow. Does anyone else have a comment? Okay, so I'm going to weigh in and before we move on to the next segment. But going back to, and I agree with everything that everyone says, that like Dex, we need allies. And we need allies within our own community because just like we understand that there is something called white privilege, that because colorism exists, there is a privilege that exists for Black people with lighter skin and straighter hair. So we need allies within our own community, but we also need allies outside of our own community, which is why I'm posting the link for the Dove Act to sign the petition to end hair discrimination here in the state of Texas. And I agree with everything that everyone else has said, like Dr. Danette and Yolanda, Rhonda, I mean, everyone, that it's our job, it's our responsibility. And so going back to the story that Kim shared, I feel like I want to put a challenge out there to the Black Boule, to the Divine Nine, to the fraternities and the sororities, and for people who come from graduated from HBCUs. If you are a donor, if you are an active alumna, go back to your HBCU and say to the dance teams, go reach back into our communities and say, hey, what can we do to begin to change the standard of what is beautiful? What can we do to allow these young women who choose to wear their hair natural, that are being forced to conform? How can we help ourselves and help each other out? And Rhonda brought up a great point, and she said that that it's a ministry to be a hairstylist or to be a barber. And it's really this deep historical connection that we have to our roots, and that in African cultures and different African nations, the hairstylist was a honored place. And I was telling Kim in the interview, you have an honored place in our community. And it was an act of love to be able to go and get your hair done. It was the way that we bonded. We talk about being in the beauty of the barbershop all day, but we really go there. It's our spa. It is our country club. It is our, place of relaxation where we can go and unwind and catch up on all what's going on in the neighborhood and in the community. And to be able to have that camaraderie and that community is very important. So people that do hair have an honored place in the Black community. Sometimes y'all are our lifeline to the outside world. I will never forget it. One time, my mom, who never missed a day of work, my mom, she was a supervisor in the housekeeping department of a hospital, but my mom got up every day. She put her makeup on. She shoe polished her white shoes. There was not a spot on her shoes. She put her uniform in the cleaners, and sometimes we would have to iron them, and we were scared to death for putting a double crease in the pants of the shirt because my mom was dressed going to the hospital. Her hair was did, not done, every time she went to work. But one morning she woke up and her hair, she could not get it together. My mom called in sick, and I was like, it was summer. I was like, what is going on? My mom called in sick. She called her hairstylist first, back in the day, her beautician. She called a beautician and said, girl, I need you to fix my hair. Then she called in sick to work, and she went and got her hair done. So y'all are our lifeline. So we appreciate you, but it is a ministry because hair in the African culture meant so much more. It indicated status, rank, marital status, at what point in your life you were in, whether or not you were going to war or transitioning to a different position within the community. So it is incumbent upon us as people who have the profession of hairstylists, people who graduated from HBCUs, people who have children, to show them that, we're going to embrace our natural hair. When I did the big chop, a few months later, my daughter did the big chop. And so we grew our hair out and have been natural in the same year. So whatever I did, she followed. So it is our job. And the more we embrace it, the more we will be able to get other people to rally around us to show that Black hair is beautiful. So this conversation has been great. It is by no means over, but this is all that we can have in this time. But we are going to go from untangling the roots of discrimination of Black hair to actually reclaiming the narrative and embracing our hair. So we're going into part 2 of our celebration of our hair this afternoon, and we're going to have story time. So if you have little girls or little boys, bring them to the computer, bring them to your phone, because we're going to have story time. We're going to hear from Deborah Carter, who is a local librarian at the San Marcos Public Library. She's going to show you an array of different books that you can check out at the San Marcos Public Library. And then we're going to hear from author Yolanda King, and she is going to read one of her books. So we are so blessed to be able to have her on the panel and to read one of her books. We're going to put the link to her Amazon profile in the description box when she reads her story. So we're going to have those 2 videos play back to back. And for those of our shop members who can stay, we'd love for you to invite you to stay to have final comments at the end. But if you have to leave, then we appreciate you having been here. You've made such a great contribution to this conversation. So now we're going to have story time. So we'll see you guys back in a little while.
Hello, my name is Deborah Carter. I am one of your local librarians, and I just read some great books about Black girls and boys loving their hairstyles. Today I'm going to quickly show you 7 of these books, and the last one I'll read out loud. We have all these books and more for anyone in the Hays County to check out for free from the San Marcos Public Library. Here is a classic book about a girl who celebrates her lovely head of hair as part of her heritage. The book is called I Love My Hair by Natasha Anastasia Tarpley, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. In this book, every night, Kiana's mother lovingly combs out her tangles before bed, and when it hurts, her mama assures her that she is very lucky to have such hair because it is beautiful and you can wear it in any style you choose. Here's a book that celebrates the magnificent feeling that comes from walking out of a barber shop with newly cut hair. This book is written by Derek Barnes. I love to read this book out loud because it's so rhythmic. The story is a celebration of the self-esteem, confidence, and swagger kids feel when they leave the barber's chair. The writer shows that getting a fresh style places a crown on your head, a figurative crown, beaming with jewels that confirms brilliance and worth. This book is about a 5-year-old named Solway. An encounter with a shooting star helps her understand her beauty and the beauty that is within her nature. This gorgeous book, written by Oscar-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o and stunningly illustrated by Vashti Harrison. This book has a thoughtfully layered story and powerful pictures that address sensitive topics in a uniquely nurturing way. In the end, Solway knows that she is dark and beautiful, bright and strong. My Hair is a Garden by Cosby Cabrera is about a girl named Mackenzie. Mackenzie consults her trusted neighbor, Miss Tilly, who compares her hair with tending a beautiful garden and teaches Mackenzie some techniques. Using the beautiful garden in the backyard as a metaphor, Mackenzie finds out just how beautiful natural hair can be. Miss Tilly's tips and recipes for hair care can be found on the last page. Academy Award-winning director and former NFL wide receiver Matthew A. Cherry and New York Times bestselling illustrator Vashti Harrison came together to create this book. The story is tender and empowering. Hair Love is an ode to loving your natural hair and a celebration of fathers and daughters everywhere. Illustrator Vashti Harrison, who also illustrated Solway, is passionate about crafting beautiful stories in the kidlit worlds. Here you can see some of the art in the book Hair Love, as well as a picture of the artist, Vashti Harrison, and a couple of titles of her own, but she's written and illustrated many more kids' books and even indie films focusing on Caribbean culture. Hair Like Mine is the first book in a series called Kids Like Mine series. This book is fun and easy, following a little girl with naturally curly hair that looks different from other kids around her. On her quest to find someone with hair like hers, she soon realizes that we are all unique and special in our own way. Hair Like Mine was written by Latasha Perry, who is the founder and CEO of Kids Like Mine. Perry is committed to enriching and empowering the lives of children through representation and positive affirmations. So this is the last book. So lastly, on top of the stack is a library favorite. In this book, Princess Hair, the author and illustrator, Cherie Miller, pairs a simple, positive story with playful pictures that showcase and celebrate the diverse array of Black girl princesses, all with different textures and styles of hair. You'll notice the adorable illustrations are perfect for even our youngest readers. All princesses wear crowns. But underneath their crown, not all princesses have the same hair. Some princesses wear puffs and play pretend. Others wear twist outs and twirl around. Princesses with dreadlocks love to draw and draw and draw. And princesses with kinks love to think. And princesses with frohawks rock. Princesses with head wraps take long naps. And princesses with curls wear pearls. And princesses with teeny weeny afros wear teeny weeny bows. Princesses with bantu knots bake a lot. Princesses with afros do-si-do. Princesses with braids love parades. Princesses with buns love to run. Princesses with blowouts bounce and bounce and bounce. Princesses with twists wrap gifts. And nappy princesses are happy princesses. Not every princess has the same hair, but every princess loves her princess hair. And didn't you love this book? If you did, the author, Cherie Miller, wrote other ones too. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Yolanda King, the author of Curly Locks and the Big Bad Hairbrush. I'm really excited to be able to share one of Curly Locks' many adventures with you. Here we go. Once there was a little girl with super curly hair named Curly Locks. She lived with her family in a tiny town next to the tallest forest. Now, Curly Locks had a large family. There were lots of aunties, uncles, and cousins. And you can see there's Miss Curly Locks right there. Friday was Auntie Day. That morning, Daddy baked a pie for each of Curly Locks' 3 aunties. Auntie Lizzie adored sweet potato pie, Auntie Bertie loved blackberry pie, and Auntie Adele fancied savory chicken pot pie. Yummy! Curly Locks, here are the pies for your aunties. Savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats. Make sure to bring each auntie the whole pie, said Daddy. What does that mean? Curly Locks plopped the pies into her red wagon and packed her bag with her favorite dream jar, a butterfly net, and her hairbrush, because those are things you need when you're going into the tallest forest. She and the little red wagon bounced along the path to Auntie Lizzie's. Curly Locks saw bright orange daisies growing around an old tree stump. Those orange daisies would be lovely next to the sweet potato pie. She picked the flowers and dropped them into the wagon. As she got closer to Auntie Lizzie's pink house, she took a quick peek at the flowers and the sweet potato pie. Curly Locks was anxious to try just a tiny piece. Surely a small morsel from the center would not be missed. Curly Locks reached for the pie. Suddenly she heard, savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats, but if you eat that pie, the aunties will ask you why. Curly Locks looked around and saw her hairbrush. She answered, oh, please hush, you big bad hairbrush. She quickly gobbled a tiny piece of pie, then knocked on Auntie Lizzie's door. If you're at home, can you knock with me? Here's your sweet potato pie, Auntie Lizzie, said Curly Locks. Daddy made the whole pie just for you. Thank you, said Auntie Lizzie. She gave Curly Locks a hug and lifted the pie cover. Did someone gobble my pie? Asked Aunt Lizzie. Curly Locks squeezed one eye shut, took a tiny breath, and whispered, no. Just as she said no, her curly hair grew way bigger. Auntie Lizzie stared at Curly Locks' hair and pondered her gobbled hair. She sent Curly Locks on to Auntie Bertie's house. What is going on? As she made her way to Auntie Bertie's house, Curly Locks found a curious rock. It looked like a tiny full moon. It was round and had round dimples. She gently tucked the rock into her dream jar. The flat bottom and dimpled top of the moon rock reminded Curly Locks of Auntie Bertie's blackberry pie. As she got closer to Auntie Bertie's blue house, she stopped to smell the blackberry pie. She thought about the sweet and tart blackberries. Oh, A small smidge would not be missed. Curly Locks reached for the pie when suddenly she heard, savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats. But if you eat that pie, the aunties will ask you why. Curly Locks looked around, saw the hairbrush, and sighed. She answered, oh, please hush, you big bad hairbrush. She nibbled a tiny piece of pie, then knocked on Auntie Birdie's door. If you're at home and listening, can you knock with me again? Here's your blackberry pie, Auntie Birdie, said Curly Locks. Daddy made the whole pie just for you. Thank you, said Auntie Birdie. She gave Curly Locks a hug and lifted the pie cover. Did someone nibble my pie? Asked Auntie Birdie. Curly Locks squeezed one eye shut, took a tiny breath, and whispered, no. Just as she said no, Curly Locks' hair grew way, way bigger. Auntie Birdie stared at Curly Locks' hair and pondered the nibbled pie. She sent Curly Locks to Auntie Adele's house. What is going on? But you know what? I have my pie. As she walked to Auntie Adele's yellow house, Curly Locks heard a buzzing noise. She looked up and found one sparkling pale blue dragon. He was flying up and down and side to side. Curly Locks caught the dragon with her butterfly net. She let him out of the net and he glided to the top of the pie cover. When Curly Locks shooed the dragon away, she could smell the pie spices. Curly Locks peeked at Auntie Adele's pie. One little taste of crust would be yummy. She reached for the pie when suddenly she heard, savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats. But if you eat that pie, the aunties will ask you why. Curly Locks looked around and saw the hairbrush again. She answered, oh, please hush, you big bad hairbrush. Oh, the hairbrush is trying to tell her. She plucked a tiny piece from the side and then knocked on Auntie Adele's door. If you're at home listening, will you knock with me one last time? Here's your chicken pot pie, Auntie Adele, said Curly Locks. Daddy made the whole pie just for you. Thank you, Curly Locks, said Auntie Adele. She gave Curly Locks a hug and lifted the pie cover. These houses are just so cool. Auntie Adele peeked at the pie and then at Curly Locks. Did someone pluck a piece of my pie? Asked Auntie Adele. Curly Locks squeezed one eye shut, took a tiny breath, and whispered, no. Curly Locks. Just as she said no, her curly hair grew way, way, way bigger. That was cute. It's a telltale sign for Curly Locks. Auntie Adele stared and said, Curly Locks, telling me the truth will not get you into trouble. When you want to share, it's good to ask. Okay, Curly Locks said relieved. Auntie Adele, I gobbled a piece of Auntie Lizzie's sweet potato pie, nibbled a bit of Auntie Birdie's blackberry pie, and I plucked a piece of your chicken pot pie. Whew. Suddenly, her way, way bigger hair shrunk neatly back into place. Auntie Adele gave Curly Locks a hug and called the other aunties over for dinner. They sat at a picnic and watched the dragonflies dash around while they ate the sweet potato pie, blackberry pie, and savory chicken pot pie. And that is the end of Curly Locks and the Big Bad Hairbrush. There are a few vocabulary words on the back, some savory and morsel and curious and tart and ponder. And you can see a few other Curly Locks books. The first one was The Three Pink Pandas, and then the second one was Curly Locks and the Big Bad Hairbrush. And then there's another third one, which is Curly Locks and the Sleepy Giant. You can get them all on Amazon or at your local, locally independent Black-owned bookstores. We would love you to support them. Thank you for listening.
All right, so I am here with author Yolanda King. She's the author of a wonderful series of children's books called Curly Locks. And so you're going to have the pleasure of being able to hear her narrate one of her books that she's chosen for the Celebrating Our Heritage series. So we want to welcome Yolanda and say thank you so much for being here. So I just wanted to ask you a few questions because I think it's really awesome that you're an author and that you chose to write about curly locks. So tell me, what was the motivation behind your book series?
Oh, sure. And thank you for having me too. I'm very honored. So the motivation occurred when I had my daughter, and she was going to a Spanish immersion school. So let's say she was probably 3, and she was only going 2 days a week for like 4 hours a day. And I should back up. We had purposely kept our kids from Disney just because of representation. Back in, that was like 2012, 2013. So she hadn't, they weren't doing Disney. But then one day she came home and told me she wished she had pink skin. And I was like, pink skin? And I was like, well, don't jump to conclusions. I was like, is that because it's your favorite color? And she said, no, it's the color of my friend's skin. And so that kind of took me aback because I thought, well, I'm in all these black moms groups, but we do live in Austin. And then I just thought, well, I'm keeping her away from certain images, and I'm not doing enough. And so I started making up stories for them. Like sometimes we'd be waiting for my husband. And then I decided to purposely call attention to the color of someone's skin, because I realized in my stories that I told them that I made up, I was just telling a story. I didn't really describe people. So I started telling how beautiful and brown the girl's skin was, or black her skin was, or curly, coily her hair was. And so it was, my daughter was the reason that I started it. And then I decided to take the Goldilocks book, and I just changed it one day, and I was like, we're gonna call her Curly Locks. And then we went from there, and I was describing the character to her, and she was loving it. And then a friend said, oh, you should, maybe you should write this down and publish it. And I thought, oh, sure, I'll do that. I'll give that a try. And I was like, I remember thinking, I wanted more books for her to choose from, especially back in 2013. Things are a lot different now. They're still not where we would love them to be, but back then it was challenging to find books with Black girls with beautiful hair, and I know we had like I'm going to call them our struggle books, where it talked about our history. But I also wanted more books of just like every day, like, yeah, we can have fun too. So that is how the book started. And then, so, I mean, I enjoyed, she liked listening to it, and it was fun, just the whole getting the books done. So the first book was actually Curly Locks and the 3 Pink Pandas. And the pink pandas, because her favorite bear, she called him Pink Panda. And so that is how it was, like the 3 Pink Pandas. And it was my daughter that really got the ball started. But then looking beyond my own kiddo, I also was looking at other kids in the Carver Museum, the George Washington Carver Museum here in Austin.
Right.
They knew that I had published this book, and so they'd done like an event for me, and it was wonderful. And then we decided to collaborate on a book club for kids. So it was multi-generational. So it was mommy, daddy, and me book club. And so we would do picture books, and the parents would read with the kids, and we would discuss, how the kids felt about the different books. And we're still doing that, but we dropped the mommy and the daddy words because my kids are now like 12 and 14. And so now it's mom, dad, and teen tween.
Gotcha. Okay. So I love the idea that when you didn't see something, you decided that you weren't going to complain about it or wait around for it. You decided to create something and to birth something in the world that your children could see in terms of representation. So that leads me to my next question. How important is representation as a woman, female Black author writing children's books? How important is representation?
Well, it's extremely important for our children to see themselves in everyday occurrences, to see their history. I'm realizing that there's like a desert at the schools, and they are spending 7, 8 hours, 5 days a week at an institution, whether
Right.
it's a private school or a public school, and then we really don't have a lot of time with our kids as the school year goes. Like there's dinner, you might be running them around the soccer and all that. So trying to get as many images that are positive or are just Black, brown
Yeah.
hair, like love you in front of them is really important. And I know it's important for my kiddos, but it's important for our whole community.
Yeah.
And I also have found with the representation, it's easiest sometimes as they're getting older
Uh-huh.
to have that representation when they're in a group setting.
Okay.
Sometimes the kids
Mhm.
are like, Mom, like, okay, yeah, we know we're Black and we're proud.
Mhm.
Enough. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, there's more. But it's with a
I'm not sure if everyone is able to see and hear me right now, but we are, as always, experiencing technical difficulties in this age where technology holds us hostage. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get the interview with Yolanda back, but it was a very interesting interview. And I think that for those of you that are interested in her books, and we posted the link to her Amazon profile in the discussion or the chat, definitely you want to click on that link and follow her Amazon profile to purchase some of her books. But we will say that the interview will actually live on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't explored our YouTube channel, we just started it just a few months ago. We started archiving some of our live feeds, our discussions, and some of our other events that we've been learning how to do in the digital age since the pandemic. But the interview with Yolanda, you can finish watching that on our YouTube channel, and the name of our YouTube channel is the Dunbar Heritage Association, as well as the other interviews with Kim and some of the other videos that we played, so that if you want to become more informed, or if you want to share that information with other people, then hopefully before this is over, we can actually share the playlist with you guys so that you can just go back to the YouTube channel and you can rewatch this and you can just pick which video you want to watch. The story time with Deborah Carter is there. You can share that with your children. The story time, the book that Yolanda read, Curly Locks and the Big Bad Hairbrush, that's there, as well as some of the other educational videos. So right now, we are hoping that we will get a chance to finish up and hear from our hair panelists. Our tech guy is working furiously behind the scenes, and he's scrambling, trying to get everything back up, because we're going to be finished here in just about 10 to 15 minutes. So if you've been watching, make sure that when the live stream is finished, that you will go on and that you will share this video with other people, because we know that your time is precious and sometimes everybody's not able to watch while it's going on live. But definitely the conversation, the discussion is something that is worth having. And the panelists and the shop, we were talking behind the scenes about the fact that this conversation is not over. We had some comments that we had from people earlier. We're going to share some of those comments. See, Crystal Moore said, "Thank you, Jonathan and panelists, for having this discussion about celebrating our heritage and learning to accept and embrace what God has given us." Amen to that. It's about time that we learn to accept what God has given us. Dr. Chate said, "This has been a great program. I enjoyed the conversation and I'm loving the books that I will share with my daughter. Thank you again, and great job, Pastor Jonathan and panelists." So we've had a lot of great feedback. A lot of you are saying that you're really loving the books, and we hope that you'll go on to the library. Let me take that comment down. Let's see. Let me go back to this. So like I said, we've posted the link to Yolanda so that you can purchase some of her books and check out her Amazon profile. So we just appreciate you for having tuned in. We appreciate you for having joined us. So now I'm going to check back in just a moment to see. Maybe not. Let's see. Okay, no, don't do that. Okay. Oh, well, let's see. Maybe I have the power to bring everybody back. So I'm going to tell my panelists, the shop, that I'm going to bring you back in. I'm going to attempt to do this myself. So let's see. So bringing everybody's getting their hair, messing with their hair. Rhonda, I'm bringing you back to the stream. Dex, bringing you back to the stream. Yolanda, Dr. Danette, and Kimberly. All right. Okay, look at me. Look at me staying calm under pressure. All right, so y'all saints must have been praying in the background. So I think there's one comment that's still up. I'm gonna see if I can't. No, it's gone now. Okay, so final remarks, comments. Does anybody have any comment about the books that were read, or just final comments in general?
Yolanda, that was phenomenal. I made a couple of comments in our private chat area there, but that was phenomenal. And you are a great storyteller. So I will definitely, I have a friend who just had a grandbaby and a granddaughter, and I needed to get her a gift. And so I was like, that would be a great gift as to one of her little gifts to put in her gift bag, one of your books. So that was great.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
One other comment on the hairstylist thing, like doing like the missionary work, the first work. I'd also like to remind the mothers out there that sometimes you're that first hairstylist. So when you're doing that hair, like the energy that you have in it, like I have caught myself doing my daughter's hair in the mirror, like we may get into a nice little pink tangle and we're pulling it and my face is showing it, but I need to work through it with love, and my face needs to represent that. So I would ask the moms that let that face represent the love that you have for her hair so that she can internalize that.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea that it's like as we're doing our children's hair that we have to operate in a ministry of love because
Ministry.
ooh, hair
Yes.
time. It was you would start crying when Mama would say, "Come on here, sit down between my legs and let me do your hair." You'd be like, that's a reflection of what that experience was like. So, Yolanda, that is a great
Yes.
point. Great point. Any other
I
closing remarks? Good.
I just want to say thank you for that, Yolanda. Your storytelling was amazing, and thank you for that tidbit. I have 4 girls, and I have what I call the bigs and the littles. So the littles still getting their hair done, but we're all natural, and it's so good to. I love how we talked about hair being a ministry and being able to serve our children in a way of a ministry. So we're loving on them and really loving that hair and talking to it and really giving it up to God to let that be a ministry and a service back to them. So thank you for all of this. Thank you for this panel. Miss Kim, thank you for your service in the community, to our Black community. And I really love what you said. If it's not just but a phone call, to give your Black hairstylist a phone call to say, hey, what can we do here? And how can we make these, this time and this season better in our lives? We won't be doing hair all the time, but for the times that we do have in our community, thank you for serving in that position to uphold the Black community. It has been an honor and a pleasure serving on this committee and getting really to know you guys. So thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Danette. Thank you for your contribution to the conversation. It has been stellar and it has been invaluable. Any other closing remarks or comments or thoughts? Dex.
Thank you. Lovely book and storytelling there, Yolanda. That was really fun to listen to you tell your story as well. I can tell how much love and thought you put into that and how much fun you had. And the illustrations were really great as well. I want to thank everyone, for having me as a part of this event to share my own personal thoughts about what I think typically is a lot more diplomatic type things that I'm dealing with. So this was really fun. Really reminded me of exactly, like I said, having a conversation with my cousins and aunties and grandma, sisters and uncles and stuff like that. Just having an open dialogue and sharing ideas and things like that. That is important. And I hope that this plays a platform for others that are watching to continue dialogue in their families, in their communities, in their churches, and various different things like that. Because we've only touched on a very little bit, and I'm itching everything that we've been talking about. I was like, I'm gonna go and have coffee with these ladies after this because there's a lot more to unpack with this. But it was truly an honor and grateful to be in the presence of each and every one of you because it takes community to build a great community, and certainly having discussions is a large part of it. And in closing, that we continue to have these dialogues, continue to reflect in ourselves. I think there's been some great advice shared by the panelists and from moderators. Done a wonderful job tonight, and I'm excited that we'll continue even beyond Black History Month borders into further conversations that we have each and every day. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Dex. I knew I wanted to have you on the panel. I just wasn't sure if I would be able to get you, but when we were working on the Black History Month calendar for Hays County, I was like, bam, there he is. And so I'm really grateful that you have been a part of this conversation and being here to have a male presence in the conversation, because as we saw in the videos earlier, that DeAndre Arnold and his cousin, I think his cousin, Caden Bradford, they both, experience hair discrimination. So we experience it across the spectrum of all different hair types and textures. So your contribution has been great. I'm looking forward to working with all of you guys in the future. I wanted this to be an in-person event, but COVID still prevails. So we'll have to look to the future as things can and will get better. I'm believing God for that things can and will get better. But in the meantime, we have to be careful and be safe. And so perhaps maybe by Juneteenth or later on in 2021 or by Black History Month 2022, we'll have a hybrid event where we'll do this in person and online as well. And we'll have hair demonstrations, and we'll have local vendors who sell products, and local Black businesses come and participate. So I'm looking forward to really blowing this up. And Austin is not the only place that can have a hair show or hair event. We can do it in Hayes County, and we can do it big. So yes ma'am, so any other closing remarks, thoughts, comments? And for people who are watching, do you guys have any comments? Post them in the discussion. Before our panelists, any more remarks?
I told him I would give him a shout out. My that's been taking care of me since we were in the course together at Texas State. Forrest Monroe into L has a shot right here, Kyle. But I just wanted to give him a quick shout out. He's taken care of his brother for a long time, and he's been working on got his way all the way up to owning the shop. Much respect and pride for him.
Yes, I would have to agree with you. N2L, Taurus, he's been cutting my kids' hair. Shout out to all the barbers, Anointed Hands, and Bastrop. I don't know if you ever will see this, but he cut my son's hair for the first time. So we go way back with him. Juwan Watson. It's another brother in the community that is putting in the work. Let's see, Wild Root Salon in Lockhart, Texas. So Wild Root Salon is when I first did the big chop and did my color. And I know those two women, Quanisha, and her mother, I've been knowing them for a long time. They've done my hair. And then Larry, who also has a shop. So we just want to, send shout out to those people as well who are part of our community that give love and light, and send us out the door and make us presentable to the world.
Let me give a shout out to J. Rod Franks. He just opened a new shop. I think it's called The Lab. And they're either located in Maynard, Texas, or Austin, or Pflugerville, but I think it's Maynard. Yeah, J. Rod Franks. It's called The Lab. So give him his shout out too.
Yes, he sure did. I saw that he opened up his shop as well. So any other closing remarks or comments?
I just have one. I would like to just encourage the public to continue to support their small businesses. This is trying times for all of us. Some of us are, having to close up. Some of us are still keeping strong, but whatever you do, don't forget your Black small businesses either, because it's really rough for them right now. And we've been blessed, and continue to think about your hairstylist. And if you can't afford to go and support them.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything that they want to share? One of the things go ahead, please do.
I just want to thank everyone. I enjoyed each and every one of you, everyone's input. Thank you, Pastor Jay, for asking me to be on the panelist. I have really enjoyed this. It's been a lot of fun. And I look forward to us coming back and doing this again. It was good.
Awesome.
It was good. Thank you so much.
Okay, so one thing that I'm doing, which I probably shouldn't multitask, because really you're not as good as multitasking as you think you are, is right now I'm actually pasting a link into the chat. The link in the chat gives you the link to the playlist of the videos, the stories, and the interviews that were shared from this Celebrating Our Heritage event. It also gives you the link automatically. Of course, it takes you to the Dunbar Heritage Association YouTube channel, where you can actually go on YouTube and probably see the live streaming event. Of course, it will live on our Facebook page. If you haven't done so already, sign up for sign the petition for the Crown Act, because the Texas Black Caucus has already introduced the legislature, but we want to make our voices heard. We talked about the fact that we wanted to take on the responsibility ourselves to have agency, to demonstrate what is beautiful, to determine what is beautiful. And unfortunately, that involves being get involved into politics in some way. So even if you're not a very political person, you can still engage in policy making by signing the petition to end hair discrimination here in the state of Texas. So I want to thank all of the shop members, Kimberly Butler Fitzgerald of Ladies and Gents Professional Hair Services, Dr. Danette Myers, Author Yolanda King, Council Member Dex Ellison, and Minister Rhonda Nixon. And I want to give a shout out to my husband, the ever-present, ever-cool, ever-capable Alex Manberry, Deacon Alex, working behind the scenes. He was able to get back on, and he's now in full control of the studio. So I want to thank him so much. He is the one that ran this whole StreamYard platform and just making everything. There he goes. Yes. Just making sure that everything ran well. He put all of the graphics up and got the scroll going down at the bottom. So, I mean, couldn't have done this without him. He's my partner, my ride or die. So I appreciate every one of you for watching. Thank you for being here. Like I said, please share this video after the live stream is finished, and we'll continue this conversation celebrating our heritage. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Dove believes all beauty should be celebrated with freedom to wear our hair how we choose. So we can showcase our authentic beauty, magnificent and free.
We are born in this world with so many doors closed already.
There's one thing for us to say what beauty looks like. There's another thing to make sure our beauty is welcome in all places, all institutions. There's a systemic, institutionalized bias and discrimination that exists against us because of our hair.
People have discriminated against me because of my hair.
Where is the justice when Black men and women are denied access to economic advancement because of their natural appearance?
Moments ago, we passed off of the California State Senate floor the Crown Act that says all of us who wear our hair in its natural form won't be discriminated against in school or the workplace.
I'm glad to be associated with the Crown Coalition to make it clear that racial discrimination based on natural hair and hairstyles is prohibited in New York State.
And I want to thank everyone that it took to make the progress that we have and the progress I know to come. There's so many people to thank